But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne, and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in-store, and exclusive access to sold-out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job has just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hi, mate.
Easy now. How's it going?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm recording this right now.
Are you? I'm live on TV.
Yeah, you're live on TV.
Awesome. Hi, Mom.
What was the worst gig experience you ever had?
So I went to see I Am the Avalanche, and I was like super excited to see them. Like the movie Life. Really liked the second I Am the Avalanche album. Can't remember what it's called, but really excited to see them. They're playing. It's the heat of summer. I take off my. Well, I couldn't have been that hot, but it was hot enough. Take off my jumper. It was at the Peel, and then I just like threw it like on the stage in between like. Maybe in front of like the bass cab, but like not where anyone was playing or that. You know, no one noticed or whatever. And then after like the next set of songs, I guess someone's like spilt a drink, like one of the musicians, and their roadie's like jumped on the stage from like side of the stage, and he's grabbed my jumper and he's like wiping up the liquids that's been spilt with my jumper, and I'm like, dude, that's my jumper, what the fuck? Or like whatever I said. I was like 17, so I probably didn't swear, but and then he was like, why is your jumper on the stage? And I was like, because it's hot, like I threw my jumper up there for somewhere for it to be. He's like, well, your jumper shouldn't be on the fucking stage then, bro, should it? And so I grabbed my jumper and I left the venue crying because I was so upset.
Whatever happened to the New York gentleman?
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's where I speak to bands about all the other stuff they do outside of playing music that allows them to do it. Welcome. On today's episode, we've got Ned Russin, who we all know from playing in Title Fight. I can't really think of someone who has such a unique style. He's got the short shorts, he's got the really low slinging bass, he's swinging like a metronome, and he's got the straight microphone style. I dig it. Voice instantly recognizable. Amazing band. Title Fight changed the way that we hear hardcore and punk rock now. Hardcore and punk would be very different to what we see now if it wasn't for Title Fight. Madly influential, evident by the fact that their merch store is still online way after the band has gone on infinite hiatus or broken up, or if they got the merch store still running, you still got cachet, you know, you're still in there, you're still on people's minds. What amazing records Title Fight put out. And Ned has continued with Glitterer. He took a couple of years out, and Glitterer started as, well, as a lonely project. He said that it's, you know, him and a box and trying to find out what that would be like, what those experimentations would sound like. And for me, I've got to be honest, Glitterer, with those couple of EPs and that record, it was a bit of a curiosity for me. It was kind of the thing that I dipped in and out of. These new songs from this new album, The Same Ordinary, which has this kind of Title Fight feeling, Just a Place that sounds like some kind of Big Star and Tony Molina, Plastic, which has this kind of like immediate energy, immediate groove, 1 minute 24, all amazing sounding tracks that sound like they're being played by a band, which they are. We talk about that. That new record's called Rationale. It's coming out on February the 23rd via Anti. You can go and pre-order that now. Great to speak with Ned. I've read a lot of interviews with him over the last 10 plus years. I know what he thinks about music. I know through his kind of familial affairs, his older brother was in a hardcore band, and you know, I've read a lot about his thinking and his ruminations about what hardcore means and is to him. So it was cool to ask him about his life outside of music, what his day-to-days have been like, what happened when Title Fight ended, trying to do some other stuff, as we found out here, until a friend pulled him back and said, look, what do you want to do? What do you want? What do you feel good doing? And that, to me, is the Glitterer record that we're hearing on Rationale. You're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to 2000 Trees Festival coming out this July in Cheltenham, just a few hours away from London here in the UK on the train. The Gaslight Anthems headlining on the Thursday, Manchester Orchestra, Hot Mulligan, Boston Manor, Better Lovers, Gouge Away, Teenage Wrist, The Mysterines. If you like Glitterer, you like Title Fight, you like Ned Russin, 2000 Trees is definitely a festival for you. If you want to head this July, go to 2000trees.co.uk and you can pick up your tickets there.
Introducing Ampolo, the new app for musicians. Using AI stem separation, play along to any song, improving your practice and performance. Record audio or video and connect with musicians all over the world. Collaborating and creating together. Think Google Docs meets TikTok, but for musicians. There's a huge range of video and audio editing tools, and the best part, it's free. Download today and make your mark. Ampolo, made for music.
Right, go get Ampolo if you want to play some music online, make some friends, learn your craft, play along to AC/DC. But now you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs, and we got Ned Russin of Glitterer. 101 Part-Time Jobs. I guess the first thing, when I was thinking about, my relationship with the music that you've put out in the last, 15 years, I think it was 2009 when I got that first Title Fight CD promo in the post. A PR from the US had sent it to my Brighton flat. And I remember thinking, wow, that's really generous. That's great. And so, being aware of your music and being a fan since then and thinking about what I was going to ask you about today, I think the first thing that really came to my mind is this Alan Moore quote. Do you know the guy? I don't know much of his work, but he's the kind of
comic writer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Really into the occult kind of stuff. And he's got this great analogy about creating something is a bit like being a window into a room. And the bigger you can make yourself, the bigger you can make that window, because the product is what shines through, is like the pattern or the nice colors that come through onto the wooden floor of the bedroom, and the sun being the kind of, I realize as I'm saying this is quite far out analogy, but that idea of just like making yourself so open to creating something, whether that's music or books or poetry. And that's why I do this podcast, to find out how people can make themselves as broad as possible to allow creation to come through them. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So when I talk about that kind of stuff, everyone's different. Everyone's coming from this from a unique point of view. What do you think has allowed you to keep on making music, keep on allowing your brain to think about creation?
I mean, it's not something that I think of as like a faucet, like I could turn on and off. Like it is weird because using that analogy, like sometimes it does feel like it's on. Sometimes you sit down with an instrument and you start playing and something's just like kind of come out. But for me, it just kind of like since I was a kid, since like before I played an instrument, before I was in a band, I've always aspired to make music. And that was just something that I connected with when I was really young, something that seemed to just like make sense to me. And so it's something that I've always been interested in. And then, like as I've gotten older and as I've like gone from just doing whatever kind of like shitty local small thing to touring and writing and recording records and like doing that kind of like that transition, I guess like it's my relationship to it has changed, but it's still like the fundamental foundation is the same thing. It's just like, it's something that I like. And so it's something that's like when I'm home and I'm bored, I pick up an instrument and I start playing around, and it's just like, I mean, and then that's like a kind of just, I don't know, that's just a part of me, like the inspirational side of it, like the things I'm trying to convey, like that's something that I kind of have to like not sit down and think about because I try to do it somewhat subconsciously, but it's something that I'm like, that has a little bit more of thought, like the actual message of things that's coming across. But in terms of like sitting down and like making something, it's something that I've always just felt attracted to and something that I've always really, I don't know, I've always done and have continued to do.
Yeah, it makes me think, I wonder if it's got something to do with the idea of you're always just trying to be more and more yourself. Like you're chipping away at this iceberg to be more and more the true self of you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing that I feel is, for me, the pinnacle of music is playing music live.
Right.
That is like the number one thing that I've ever done in my entire life. And what I feel is the best shows that I've ever played, I felt like I am not a human being. Like I feel absent of personhood. I feel like, and that's I think the high that I'm chasing is not that I feel like I am understood. Like I feel like I cease to exist. And I think in a certain sense that comes from connection. And I think that comes from like people feeling like they understand what you're saying through, be it like the music or the lyrics or something. But it's like, there's something that when that happens that I feel like I don't want to, like, I don't really care to understand myself. I feel like I'm just like, I don't know, particles. And like, that is the thing that I'm most interested in, is like that absence of being. And I think, yeah, like the chipping away at the iceberg, like it makes sense because in order to get to that point, like had to sit down and like write lyrics and like really focus and like kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say hone my craft because I feel like that's like a little too hoity.
It's a process, right?
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, like it took a long time to like figure out what I want to say, how I want to say it, how I want it to sound, you know? And so like all those things have, led to the times when it's been like amazing. And I feel like I'm not there anymore.
I love that feeling of, you know, when I think about the most profound moments of my life, in that moment, you know, in that bubble, I know I could not control it. It was like completely out of my control.
Yeah.
And that feeling of being an observer, you know, you're like, okay, this is happening. I don't know. This is the only thing that is happening right now. You can't look away from it, but you're not part of it necessarily.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It is like some, I don't know. It's almost like a community thing, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think I talk to my friends a lot about this, but like the importance of the community of music. And like, I think that's a thing that attracted a lot of us to it early on and has continued to keep us here, is like, it's the fact that other people feel this way and other people, you know, are invested in share ideas and challenge each other and all these things. Like, I think that's all like really positive, but I think in both instances of what we're talking about, they're only possible with a large group of people who are sharing that experience with you, you know, like, and maybe I'm sure there's other ways to reach this feeling. I'm sure that there are people who feel this way when they, you know, when they look at a painting or something, or when, I don't know, there's just like other ways to, I'm sure that there are other ways to get there. But for me, and it sounds like for you, it's a thing of, it's like of being in an environment with other people sharing this experience. And I think that is like a really big part of it. And I think that kind of comes down to the, like, yeah, I don't know, the fact that like we're all, I don't know, this is like zooming out and zooming in really quick, but like we're talking about like the significance of the individual person, but at the same time, like the significance of the individual person is that they're related to and interact with all other unique individual people. And it creates like one giant interconnected, like super being, you know? And when that is in harmony, that's like, I don't know, when I feel like everything is right.
I think a lot about how that is contained by a short song, by a song that can be 2.5 minutes and can just bring this like rainbow of emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I started going to shows through hardcore. So my understanding is like even shorter, you know, like I saw Negative Approach in December, just last month, and it was like in awe, in like euphoria for 45 seconds, you know? And it's like, it's just these short bursts of things. And it's like, you can kind of have, and it doesn't have to be this kind of like large narrative kind of like journey that it like, you experience a range of emotions. It could just be a blunt statement of a singular emotion. Mm-hmm. And like that connection with another person feeling that, and that expression is so like amazing and impressive that like, even in those instances, I'm like, yeah, like this makes me feel unlike anything else, you know? And I feel like I have a shorter attention span because of that. Like because of starting going to shows when I was like a kid and like investing so much time in that style of music. And I think that's kind of, you know, that's in part why Glitter songs like rarely surpass 90 seconds. It's like,
yeah,
this is just like, yeah, I don't know. If you can get it done in a short amount of time, it's like, why go longer?
Tony Molina is a great example of that.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Do you think that it's got something to do, this communication element and this desire to communicate, do you think it's got something, and this is fucking a bit of reflection time going on here, but do you think that's something to do with having older siblings and wanting to be part of that?
I mean, I'm sure it does, but also I think the fact of, I have 5 older siblings. Wow. And well, I mean, my twin brother, Yeah, I'm the youngest. My twin brother Ben is older than me by 3 minutes, so like that doesn't really count as like being, you know, we both experience the same amount of youngness, but yeah. So it's like I feel like because of my situation in the pecking order, like Ben and I got away with a lot of shit because we had the free, like, you know, my parents were just like not over, like they obviously cared. Yeah, but it's like they had experienced the trials and tribulations of like over caring for a long time, and they're like, you'll end up okay, you know? And so it's like, yeah, I think there's, you know, in like the spectrum of things, it's like having older siblings gave me like a really weird experience because I kind of had this like weird amount of freedom, like the fact that I was able to go on tour when I was like a teenager. And that's something that my brother was not able to do. Like my oldest brother, who, you know, he's the one who got me into music and stuff. He wasn't afforded those opportunities, but because like my parents were just like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine, whatever, you know. Like,
and your parents have seen your brother tour in his band.
Yeah, because he started touring when he was in college or something. He was doing like little weekends and week tours and stuff. And so, you know, he is 7 years older than me, older than Ben and I. And so, yeah, like by the time we were, 16, 17, and he had been doing it for 3-4 years, we had that like ability to be like, okay, mom and dad, we're going to go to, you know, Philadelphia and New Jersey and Baltimore for the weekend. And they'd be like, okay.
Because they'd seen it. There's like a structure, like they'd kind of planted, though. There were footsteps in the snow there for them.
Yeah.
Like, it happens. People do it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it is like, again, like, yeah, you know, yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. It was a lot of different things to experience having older siblings, you know?
Yeah, for real. I mean, one of the things that makes it, I want to ask that is because I'm the youngest of three. My older brother's 7 years older, sister's 5 years, and totally got away with it and feel like, you know, I was afforded some things that they just weren't afforded, you know, and that ability to tour at a young age. And I think later on in life, it came to the fact, like when I was 18, which I suppose is like the kicker, 16 or 18 is like the kicker moment for a lot of people, right? Finishing school. Okay, what's next? You know, I'd already kind of seen my older siblings do their own thing and, you know, enjoy it to varying degrees. And that gave me like a confidence to think, nah, fuck it. I got time.
Yeah.
You know? Did you think that, I mean, when Title Fight, when you got into that touring stage and you were releasing albums and it was like more or less a full-time thing, what were the kind of hardest things to get your head around those times, do you think, looking back now?
I think oddly enough, the hardest things were like reckoning with the fact that it was a somewhat non-traditional path for me, you know, just because I think like I come from a fairly traditional family background, you know, like both of my parents, they went to college and like it was expected of all the children to go to college. And it was like, you know, you kind of like my brother was in bands and stuff, but he also like, he finished his, you know, he finished his undergrad and like he had some jobs and was like kind of figuring out what he was going to do for like his quote unquote professional career and stuff. But like the whole time he was playing music. And so I kind of felt like that was the path that I assumed I was going to go on, was like, you play music on the weekends, you just like kind of figure it out. And then, you know, you get a job that can afford you whatever kind of life you want to live. And then when I was like 22 and like everybody that I went to high school with was graduating college, then I was like, I hope there's a weird sense of like doubt that I had that, I don't know, I'd like to think is perfectly human. But I was like, yeah, I hope delaying school, if I decide to do that, is like not a bad idea, because it's like nerve wracking being like, okay, these other people are getting started on their lives. And I think there's something about doing the band, because we did it since we were so young, because it was like, it just felt like an extension of childhood. And even though we were like, whatever, I don't know if you want to talk about it from like I don't want to say a business perspective because I hate that, but it's like, you know, we were playing to more people. It's like, it was, we lived at home. So like saying it was our livelihood is kind of like a joke because it's like,
yeah,
we live for free with our parents. It like didn't really matter. But like, yeah, like we were able to do whatever. Like I could buy records when I wanted to.
Yeah.
And t-shirts. Yeah. That was like what I cared about, you know?
Yeah.
We were able to do that, and other people were like graduating college and like doing that kind of thing. I'm like, those kind of things like trip me up in the moment. And they were like, it was just like a weird comparison kind of thing. But at the same time, I think for me, the biggest thing was kind of like doing that at a later date and realizing, yeah, like I'm perfectly content with the choices that I made. I'm like, I think I've come back around on it, and it's like, it is, I don't know. Something that I didn't.
It can be scary. I talk about this with my partner a lot, and she got a full-time job when she was 16, and then kind of done the opposite thing, where now she's kind of retraining and, works at a booking agency part-time after working that full-time job for 10 years. And so we talk about it a lot. And like in both our experiences, which are kind of basically the opposite in terms of careers, we're both as scared as each other. We both feel as lonely as each other at those times of being like, what am I going to do that is going to fill my cup and be able to pay rent? And, I think one of the big things, and I've mentioned this before in this show, that my mum is an author, but got published for the first time at 45. And even now she's working a bunch of part-time jobs to afford it. And I think it requires a lot of courage, because I think a lot of us who've been brought up in traditional families, there is that almost it's like magnetism to be like, okay, I'm going to try and do the safe thing, to put your art first. There's a lot of courage in that, and it's scary because you don't know in the moment that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I felt like for a long time it took a lot of stupidity. Which
like trial and error.
Yeah, but courage. There is a lot of stupidity in courage. Like that. I think that is a large part of it. But it's like, I think had I had a different experience and a different upbringing, like I don't know if I would have taken the chances that I took when I was a kid. I'm very grateful for my family and for the situation that I had because it afforded me the opportunity to be like, I'm going to drop out of school and go on tour and have a place to stay when I was home and feel supported in that way. And it made it possible for us to do these things. And I think that level of support and that system, then it made me, I don't know, it casted some doubt on my situation, because then it was how do I don't know, continue to do this thing or something and not just bum off my parents or I don't know, and not just
resign to it almost.
Yeah. But it's so complicated because it's, I don't know, when you make a thing that's I don't know how you put value on art to begin with. And I don't know how you further your quote unquote career as an artist, but it's when you get put in the situation, it's well, I have bills to pay. I have a life to live. I have food that I need to eat. Things that I need to sustain myself. How do I do that while also attempting to do this thing? And
that's it.
I'm not going to say it's an easy thing, but it is a thing. It's it's a thing that I can, it's a choice that I continue to make because I feel like it's important, and it's also, I think it should be said, it's not for everybody, I know a lot of people who made the same decisions and, it sucked and they weren't happy in it. It just was a weird thing for them. And they feel much more satisfied in having the stability of a more traditional kind of life. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with doing it on the weekend. If you
totally.
Plenty of people that I looked up to when I was a teenager were people who played maybe once a month or something,
Yeah.
And like, those are the people that I became friends with and I'm still friends with to this day. And it's like, oh, they have a cool life. Like they do their creative thing. They have a job. Some of them have families, and it's like, they're doing everything they want to do. But I don't know. I always felt attracted to the idea of like, I have to pursue this 110%. Like this is the only thing that makes sense to me. And like, and that's been my path, is like figuring out just how to go like all the way.
Yeah.
And not like, I don't know, not just like eat rice and beans for every meal.
It's a really interesting point, because a lot of the bands that inspired you and inspired me, bands you'd read about, like the bands from like the 70s and 80s, and like Minutemen, for example, it's like play by night, work by day. And a lot of other punk bands and hardcore bands lasted for 3 years. And that snapshot of what they did in their time made me want to pursue something for the rest of my life. But it's funny thinking back that they just did it for a couple of years, out of choice or not, for just a very short amount of time.
The idea of like the career, and this is very specific to like, you know, whatever, punk and the kind of like scene that came out of this whole world, is like the idea of being a career musician in this sphere is granted the whole thing is new, but it's like, it's newer than that. So it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, it's something that people are still figuring out. And I think it's a really weird situation to be in. And I think that also like the situation that the Minutemen existed in, and that like early 80s, like punk hardcore scene, was so interesting and so cool. And it's so drastically different than it is now. Yeah. And it's like, I try to take as many lessons as I can from those bands and that crew and like that whole scene, because it was like, I mean, maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but it seems like they did so many things right. Like everything about the way they did things, the way that it was like completely kind of underground, completely its own thing, its own network, its own like, everything was self-contained, didn't have to rely on these pre-existing systems set up by the music industry. You know, like that is the thing that I strive for. And I think that's so cool. But yeah, like you're right. It lasted 3 years. They worked all the time. Like everybody was doing these other things. And then when it kind of blows up 10 years later, the system that has replaced it is one that is like, you know, largely in part just a recreation of the major label, major music industry thing. And it's like, it's way harder to exist in that system because it is predatory and it is extremely capitalist. And it is like, it is really not a thing that is concerned with musicians and artists. It's a thing concerned with making people at the top who like run the record labels and own the means of production, the most amount of money. And so now it's like a really weird thing, and it's like hard to compare to those other times. But it's like, I don't know. My dream is a situation in which we somehow, in the current situation, return to that kind of like ethos and that like way of thinking. And it's, you know, it's something that I believe is truly possible. It's just really difficult.
I think a way it could work, in my mind, is that, okay, if you've got 10,000 people who dig your band and half of them are up for paying £4 a month for your Patreon, there's always going to be a capitalist middle person, whether it's Patreon or Meta, whoever it is. That could work, right? I mean, and that's on the presumption that, you know, records are a great thing to have, and it's a great way to connect with fans, and for people to get the record and listen to it at home and, you know, spend time with it in their living room or bedroom. But in order to get the money, you know, because everything's expensive, I think the biggest difference between early 80s and now is that, you know, I was watching that Decline of Western Civilization again the other day, and one of Germs was paying like $10 a month for their rent. That just won't ever exist ever again. So people will have to get paid. Maybe a subscription model could work.
I don't know. I'm not into I'm not an economist. I'm not a philosopher.
But you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be either of those people to be like, okay, like if 5,000 people are putting £4 a month into this group that I'm doing, that starts to look like a sustainable model. I don't know. I'm riffing, you know, but it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I like. Here's the thing. The way in which we value music is so weird now, and this is like a very post-Napster world. And I think the way, like, it's really just like the streaming economy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
everything's free.
We don't value art, and we think that everything should be free. And there's something that's in a weird way, like, nice about it because it makes things accessible. And it's like, yeah, it's great to be able to listen to anything you want at any given time. But then when it comes to like compensating the people who make it, then it's like a weird song and dance. And then it gives the power to the companies who own the infrastructure that we are like essentially renting ourselves out to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My big thing that I fixate on is like, I think we need a new infrastructure. I think we need to like somebody and this is something that I talk about with some people, but it's like somebody needs to create what essentially the underground system was, but like for the 21st century,
mm-hmm.
Be it like, I don't know, not like a streaming service, but like some sort of platform to like share your things with people where you get rid of the like the big tech middleman or something,
Yeah.
And maybe, like I think like just returning value to something that is like, in my mind, valuable
mm-hmm.
is something that could be positive, but it's also like, now I'm like completely out of my pay grade. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just like completely throwing things at the wall, but these are things that I don't know. In my utopia, this would be how it works.
I mean, my opinion on this stuff and throwing shit at the wall and seeing what it is that if you look at the people who would invent stuff to begin with, they didn't know exactly what they were doing either. I mean, I feel like maybe again, being the youngest thing has given me this kind of, you've gotten away with so much and it's happened that you think, okay, well, it's either going to work or it's not going to work, and I'm not really afraid for it to not work.
Yeah. Yeah,
give it a go, right?
But I don't know. I'm not the idea guy,
right? Right.
It's like, I want someone to give it a go and I will support it, but I just don't know like what it could possibly be.
I'm your guy, Ned. Give us a shout. I'll let you know when I set it up.
All right. Yeah, my idea is just go on tour. That's all I've gotten so far. I still think that's the way.
I wanted to bring up that one line from Try Harder Still, where it's like, I turned up, I did the work, I'm still trying to figure out my worth. Do you still like have that feeling, after the life that you've had playing music? I think anyone on the street would think, oh, you got to be like a pretty confident person who's pretty, you back yourself in your own ideas. So I guess my question or my thoughts here is like, do you have that thing where it's, you're still figuring out your worth and what that is, and if that will ever go away?
Yeah, I mean, I'm human. I think a lot of the people that I've been attracted to, and a lot of like the bands and the musicians and stuff, are people who are at least they seem to be extremely confident. And I think that's something that I've desired since I was a kid, because I felt like uncertain and insecure in my own, I don't know, sense of worth, I guess. And yeah, it's something that I think struggle is maybe too strong a word, but it's like, yeah, it's something that still occupies a lot of space in my mind.
Yeah.
It's never enough to like shake me. And this is, going back to what we were saying before, it's like, I still continue to make the decisions that I make in order that I could play music and go on tour and, like do all these things. Like this is still what I'm doing. But it's something that I'm like, I don't know. I do get tripped on like, what, I don't know. Is this some weird, like, self-serving, egotistical thing on my end? Or like, am I doing this because it's, like, I think I'm good at it, and it's like, oh, I could play to people and it makes me feel important? Or is it the thing, it's like, I think this is like adding, I don't know, in like this is like a valuable resource and like it should be done, you know? And I think that's the thing is like, I get tripped up on these things and I get like scared that I'm either just stupid and I'm like lying to myself, you know, or that I'm just like wasting my time and doing something and it's like, it doesn't matter. But, you know, I think in large part, those are just like, those are my insecurities. And those are things that I'm able to like put aside and move forward past, you know, because it's like, it's a thing that is, I've thought about since I was a teenager, you know, and it used to be like a big thing for me was like trying to like prove my existence or something. And now I'm like, I'm very far removed from that. Like, I don't really care to do that anymore. I want to be like, I want to, I don't know, somehow work on like the connection with people. And I guess this is like returning to what I also talked about earlier, but it's like, yeah, I think when I was younger, the distractions were very much on like trying to create something that would like last forever and would like do all these things. And now it's like, I'm just trying to like communicate with somebody who needs to, and oftentimes it's just myself.
Yeah.
Who needs to like hear what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah. Makes sense of it.
Yeah. And I think like those things are more important than my doubts.
Hey, talking about this new record, talking about Rationale, the tracks that have come out. I mean, the latest one, which was Just a Home.
Just a Place,
a Place. The real big star feeling. It's a band, isn't it? You know, it's got some great kind of Lars kind of jangle feel to it, which is interesting because this is the record that's kind of the first. This has been the run up to this record has been like, okay, this is the first Glitterer record as a band. Glitterer that started off just then Russin. This is the band record, and I find it really interesting that, you know, in lots of places you talked about how you wanted to find the time to work out exactly what you wanted to do, and I'm interested in that kind of in that time period of quite a few years, right? Because you can't push this stuff. What were you getting up to in that time? You know, what were you able to occupy yourself with in the daytimes to keep your cup full and to keep on kind of pushing this thing up the hill and try and work it out?
Yeah, I moved to DC in 2019, in the summer of 2019. So, and I moved while I was just playing music. That was like the thing that I was doing. And I had just like graduated school a little bit before. I had tried to like get a real adult job, and that failed miserably. What was that? I didn't even get a single interview. I studied creative writing in college, and I was trying to get a job in publishing.
Right.
And I was applying for just like whatever beginner jobs at like every major publishing house in New York and some smaller ones. And I didn't even get a single interview.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I took some advice from a friend of mine, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I like playing music.
Yeah.
Why would I just like not try to do that again? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So I started just doing glitter and like touring pretty regularly, and did the first LP. And then,
so did you not know that you were gonna play music again in that period of time? Which, by the way, I say wow as if, but I know. I mean, I've been that person. I went to journalism school, and I didn't get. Like, I've sent off hundreds of applications and heard back from maybe 3 of them, 5 of them if I'm lucky. There's plenty of people out there who've got degrees, who are, you know, people can put a sentence together and have common sense that will send off hundreds of applications and get nothing back. That's the real time that we live in right now.
Yeah. And it was like, it was a weird time because I felt like I graduated. I had done pretty all right in school. I felt pretty confident, and I was like, I think I have what it takes. And then like not even getting a single like email response. I was like, man, this sucks. Yeah. But also I was like the whole time just, I wasn't certain that I was going to play music in this capacity. And because like I was also kind of the belief it's like I was lucky enough to have done it once. Like, what are the chances that I could try to do it again? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know. It seemed like I was, I don't know. I was playing with something very dangerous, you know?
Right.
But then I realized like I don't have to, I don't know. I don't have to be like a quote unquote huge success. I don't have to be like whatever. That was never the goal for anything. And I'm like, yeah, I could just live the life I want to live and still play music and figure it out. And so that's what I did. And I moved to DC in 2019, and I moved into at the time, long-running punk house. So my rent was cheap, everything was fine, and I was just kind of touring enough to where I could make everything work. And then the pandemic hit, like, you know, not even a year after I'd moved to DC.
Yeah.
And then
what'd you do?
And then
what'd you do when that happened?
I got unemployment for a couple months, which was really nice. I just kind of like sat around and I read books and I played music, and it was like a kind of really depressing stretch. I think that was this, you know, the case for a lot of people, but my girlfriend was at the time she was a nurse in the ICU of a hospital. So she was like, you know, extremely busy. And I was just like at home trying to not get sick.
In DC,
just trying to figure out
DC.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so, yeah, the punk house that I moved into, my girlfriend lived there first. Like that's how I was my into the place. So it was just like figuring that out. And then towards the end of 2020, I got a job at a record store in DC, and that's kind of what I've been doing since. And it's really nice. It's a really great place. It's owned by my friends, and I work with my friends, and it's obviously like something that we're all passionate about. But so like in that time, I was just playing music kind of on my own, trying to figure it out. And it was like the thing that I've been saying about it is like so much of the early Glitter stuff was about like how loneliness has brought us to our current kind of like political and cultural moment, and how this kind of like selfishness that spawned from loneliness. And I was like, so a lot of the stuff was about like being alone.
Yeah.
And
what does that entail? I guess that, to me, that brings that I'm thinking of people getting scared, and when people get scared, they get angry, and when they get angry, you know what I mean? It's this kind of that.
And I think it just also like breeds a lot of self-interest that is really unhealthy, because it's like more than the anger and the boredom. It's like, well, I have to like look out for myself.
Yeah.
And like, I need to take care of me. And it's like, well, everyone's kind of feeling the same way. And if you kind of forget that other people exist, it's easy to just like push them to the side and just like go get what's yours. But like, we're all trying to go get what's ours, you know? And so it was just like, I don't know. So I just kept like, we had a practice space in the garage of this house that we all lived in. And I would go out there all the time, and I would practice these songs about loneliness all by myself. And I was like, this is way too much. This is like really bringing me down. And this is even after I started like integrating back into society and like working this job Monday through Friday and like interacting with people again. I was still like, I can't do this. And so I had kind of like vague ideas about how I wanted to make Glitter into a band. And at first I was like, okay, it'll be like an evolving kind of thing where sometimes I'll show up and it'll just be a laptop and me again. Sometimes it'll be like a huge band. Sometimes it'll be like a 3-piece. And just kind of like, I wanted it to be like this weird thing. And I was like, in 2021, I was like, no, it's like the only thing I care about is playing music with a consistent group of people, working towards a common goal, like having a group, having, you know, a thing in place. And it's like, okay, that's what it's got to be. And so that's when it kind of transitioned into the band. And that's when we toured sporadically just for the last couple of years, because it was still a really weird thing for us to navigate, especially as like a smaller band. As a band, it's like up until whatever last year, it kind of felt like if you're on the road and somebody gets sick, you are like kind of responsible to test. And if somebody has COVID, then you got to like post up in a hotel room for 2 weeks. And it's like, we can't afford to do that. We can't afford to like eat the cost of the merch, of the whatever, the van rental, of like all that stuff. And so it's just like, we're just going to tour like a little bit here and there and kind of figure it out.
I mean,
and yeah, and it was just like that whole time, just working at the store, just, you know, playing music once a week with everybody, just figuring out, just like starting to write songs together.
Are you enjoying that? I mean, does it suit your personality to work at a record store and, you know, have that kind of catalog kind of environment?
Yeah, it's, I mean, the people that I work with, I really get along with and I really admire, because they're just like, they're so deep in everything. And it's like, you know, it was like, it's really nice to feel like in my early 30s that to feel again that like, I don't know anything and there's so much to learn, you know? And it's like, yeah, I'm passionate about the thing because it's like, I care about music, obviously. So it's like, I'm happy to like work surrounded by it and like be of service to other people looking for the same thing. But for my own personal edification, it's like the musicians and the bands and the artists that I found out about over the last 3 years have like vastly changed my listening habits and like my listening world. And it's like, it's so cool to just be like, feel like exposed to all this new stuff. And feel like, I don't know, just feel like young and excited again about like a thing that I didn't know exists just like a couple months prior, you know? And like that side of things to me is by far the most rewarding part.
Yeah.
I mean, the community also like huge, the community of people that come to the store and like that we service and that care about us. Yeah. Like it's also for them, like to have other people involved in it. But for myself, selfishly, like, I don't know, hearing like all this stuff that I've heard for the first time in the last couple of years is like awesome. I'm jazzed on just being able to like be in a spot, check out new things, have good conversations, and then also have the ability to go on tour when I want. It's like, it's something that I feel very fortunate to have like stumbled upon.
Yeah. I mean, being in a room where other people put on records that you would have never put on yourself is ace.
Yeah.
All the people who can't listen to records or they can't listen to music while at work. You know, that's the thing that a lot of people do. You know, it's rad to be able to listen to music in the daytime and just, yeah, amazing.
Yeah. It's also like, it's great to listen to so much music that you like have to almost force yourself to get out of your comfort zone. When you listen to music at night and it's just like your personal thing, you're going to put on your favorite stuff, or you're going to put on a new record by a band that sounds like something you already like or something, you know, it's like, and I love that because I like listening to comfortable things as well, but it's like, okay, I've listened to 8 hours of music today. I have to find something that's like, you know, it's not going to drive me crazy right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know, go find something weird in the bins and put it on. It's like stumble upon a lot of really cool things that way.
That's it. Just got a couple more questions left if you're up for that. And writing, I mean, Rationale, I mentioned the 2 singles and the kind of band sound of it. When you were writing lyrics to it, because when you're with other people, you know, you're writing these songs subconsciously or not, you know, you've got these people that you're now playing in a band with. Was your approach to writing them slightly different? You know, you talk about how you're writing a lot about loneliness. Has that changed into something new? Like, what do you think you're writing about now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this conversation is really relevant to the record because the stuff that I found myself writing about was due to my situation and my context, which was like getting a job and trying to figure out like how music has kind of been my job for the majority of my, not even the majority, the entirety of my adult life, you know, like, and trying to figure out like how to kind of, I don't know, how to oddly come to terms with that. And also come to terms with the fact that this is all kind of like it's a weird thing to like have to do. Like I have to earn money and therefore I have to like play music and I have to do that. It's like kind of wrapping my head around that while also wrapping my head around like is it even, I don't know, is it healthy to, and or realistic to pursue the idea of like, of your passion and your purpose as like your career and to make that your life? And is this some sort of weird, like trap that we fall into? Is this just like a symptom of capitalism that it's like, oh yeah, you have to do the thing that you love because then you'll never work a day in your life? These kind of like dumb kind of sayings that we tell ourselves, like make ourselves feel good about this thing. And it's like, no, really, like, what am I doing? I need to like, I need to exist. And it's like, not at this point in my life, it's not enough to just like make enough money for me to be happy and me to be like, whatever. It's like, I want to do something. I want to like, I don't know. I want to like think about the bigger picture. And I don't want it just to be about like my personal fulfillment and my personal thing and like, and my, whatever, my comfort. And so it's, I don't know, this weird kind of game that I put myself into of like, where do I sit in my life of trying to play music that is somehow not selfish, that is also at the same time extremely selfish. Like playing music makes me feel better than anything else. You know, it's like that feeling of freedom that I was discussing earlier. It's like, that is kind of, that's the thing that I'm after. And like, if that's all I'm after, then like, who is this benefiting? You know, and I don't want to just be, I don't know, you know, I don't want to be like some kind of salesman in a different outfit. You know, I don't want to be just somebody who's just benefiting myself. And so that was kind of where I was at in the record. And it had to do with my circumstances of getting this job, of like trying to bring other people into my situation. Be like, hey, are you guys going to be cool taking a couple weeks off work? Hopefully we can make some money and not come home broke. And like, and like asking other people to come into my orbit and do these things with me and kind of like reacclimate to that world again. It's like, yeah, it just felt like a weird, it felt like a weird space to be in at this point in my life. You know, it felt very much like I was almost like 20 again in a weird way.
Is that because you were like the pushing force of Glitterer? You know, I mean, I grew up in ska punk bands and there'd be 8 of us and it would feel like a family. Like I don't know, you know, I'm not sure the other people felt that way as much as strongly as I did, but I was obsessed with this idea that we were together. I'd always want to stay together. That is a big part of me. I'm still like that today. You know, if I go out with people, I like people sticking together. I like that kind of family element of it. Even as much as you want that, or I'd want that, sometimes you still got to be the driving force. And when you're the driving force, that kind of leaves you open to be vulnerable and have these kinds of thoughts.
Yeah. And it's also, I think if you are the driving force, it's like you bear responsibility for the other people as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, the band is like really cool because it's mostly people who had like never been in touring bands before.
Nice.
Or had been in a band at all. Nicole, who plays keys for us, had never been in a band before. Right. Her first show was with Glitterer, like, you know, awesome. 3 years ago. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to ask people to do something that would, I don't know, put their well-being in jeopardy. You know, I don't want to be like, hey, quit your job and come on tour with me and then everything will work out. Because it's like, I think everybody knows very well that not everything works out. And it's like, it feels like this is like still a new thing that we're figuring out. And it's like, it's exciting because it's like that. But the gravity of being in my early 30s while trying to figure that out is something that, like, you know, yeah, that's, I think, maybe where the stupidity and courage comes in. Yeah. Because it's like, I'm just going for it. You know, like I feel like I have to do this. Like I need to play music. I need to do these things, but also I don't want to like, I don't know. I don't want to fuck up my friends' lives and have them come home and like have to borrow money or something, you know? Yeah. So it's, yeah, I feel like, and I, you know, it's, I think we all care and we all like look out for each other, but it's, I just feel like, I don't know, as the one who kind of started the thing and the one who was like, whatever, answering the emails a lot of the time, it's like, I want to make sure that we're like, everybody's good. Everybody is equal. Everybody is like, you know, that it's just like everyone feels like that the band is a band, you know, and that we operate as such and that we are treated as such.
I think the thing that I take away from this, and hopefully people listening to will take away from this, is that I think it's very, I think it brings this kind of feeling of what you're talking about there. A lot of people go through that in their creative endeavors or their careeristic endeavors. And I guess without kind of, valuing like this kind of podcast or this conversation, you know, but really it's about people, and it's about saying, yeah, like everything's changing all the time. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. That we work it out as we go along. And I think when other people hear that, and when that's communicated between people, that all of a sudden becomes this common ground where people don't feel so alone.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this before, but I think the weird thing about punk and hardcore, from my perspective, is that a lot of people come to it because they feel like they have nowhere else to go. They feel like they don't really belong anywhere else. And then a lot of people come to hardcore and still feel alone in the situation. And, you know, and there's like, that is like the giant ecosystem that we all exist in. But then within that large ecosystem, everyone has their friend group. Everyone has like their people, and like it gets smaller and smaller. And it's like the band is one of the, like, it's an integral unit within the ecosystem of the scene, but it's like an important thing that needs to be nourished, you know, like every relationship and everything does. And it's, I think we all like need to care for each other, but also it's like, it's a challenging
you gotta
thing.
try.
And I
try.
think, yeah. And so it's like, and that's before like even getting to the creative aspect of it. It's like, oh yeah, like we'll figure it out. It's like, I think we're like, everyone's can be at their best creatively when these things are like working well, you know, when like the machine is running as it should. I often used to think when I was younger, I did my best work when I was depressed. I don't think that way anymore, thankfully. And it's like, I don't think you need, like, yeah, you can make great things when you are feeling a certain way, but I think you can make great things and also have better relationships and work towards your goal better when everything is kind of working together. And then hopefully those things make it easier for the ecosystem to also operate. And then, you know, and if the ecosystem is operating in a way in which you don't like it, then hopefully it makes it operate, like it makes it so that you could change those things and effectively make those things operate in the way in which you want them to, you know? And that's kind of like, I don't know, the lifelong goal of, you know, people in underground music and punk is like, trying to figure out how to do it right.
For me, I think a lot about that, the momentum, about how everyone's a mentor and a mentoree. And when those things kind of push each other round, you know, everyone's learning all the time. You got to try and make sure you're trying to be open to learning something new every day and hearing stuff from it. Yeah.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. We've gone slightly over. I think I said 45 minutes. So thank you so much for your time, Ned.
Thank you for having me.
I like to finish these, and fine if you don't have one, but in a lot of part-time jobs I've had, you know, I've worked at kind of bars, and I worked at like not a school, but like a kind of foreign exchange thing. And I was supposed to take these kids out around London, and I lost a 15-year-old on the tube, and we kind of had to work out where this kid was who didn't have a mobile phone. And I've had lots of like fuck ups in my jobs. You know, I'm probably like over enthusiastic sometimes, and I'll say I know how to do something when I can't, and that's got me in trouble a few times in my life. Have you got any? Does anything come to mind now when I ask you about work gaffes or kind of work fuck ups that are kind of funnier than they are sad? You know.
My jobs have been very part-time while playing music. And I don't have like, the one that like immediately comes to mind, which is a story that I like to tell, but it's not so much like a gaffe as it is like somebody seeing me for being an idiot, like right. on the job. But, I lived in New York for a while, and my job while I was there, while I was home from tour, was working at Webster Hall, kind of legendary venue. And I was a loader because at the time, and they've since changed this, but they had 3 flights of stairs, and it's like, it was a really kind of like terrible gig. Because also I was on a list of people where I would only get called when they needed like 20 loaders. So I would only do the stuff that was like the most challenging, most amount of gear, really like biggest productions. And so, so one of the shows that I loaded there was for this band called Mudcrutch, which was Tom Petty's high school band that broke up before he went solo, and then he got back together before he died. As just like, it was just his high school buddies that he like jammed with. And it was kind of like a thing for them. And so there were 2 things that night. One, we had to load in Tom Petty's grand piano, which I'd never seen a grand piano in a road case before, but it was like it was monstrous. It was disgusting. And so we had to like load this grand piano up the stairs, and that was just like in itself like a really difficult, annoying thing. But the other thing was that we had to somehow like that day I got tasked with like setting up lights, which is not my usual task at that venue. Like I usually just loaded and then I went home and I ate lunch and then I'd come back to unload the stuff at the end of the night. And somehow they like were like, okay, Ned, climb up on that 20-foot ladder and go adjust that light because it's like in the wrong position. I forget what it was. And so I was like opening up this giant ladder on the stage, and Tom Petty's guitar tech was there. And he said to me, I was like opening up near their guitar amps, and they had a little a Marshall combo amp it was old, I'm sure, but he said, hey, watch out, that amp's worth more than your life. And then I had to like, so after I got scolded by some like, 6-year-old rocker, I had to like climb up onto this crazy ladder, go up to the light, and then it turns out that the light was like, it didn't have to be changed to begin with. So I just like made a fool of myself in front of Tom Petty's guitar tech, and then I had to climb back down and then pull up the ladder. But yeah, so apparently my life is only worth like whatever, $4,000 according to Tom Petty's guitar.
It's amazing how, you could be in the smallest pub or the smallest bar, and if there's a rocker who's like, realistically twice our age, they can cut us down with a few words so easily.
Yeah, that I felt very little.
We got the sound person who does the sound of our local, like it's a great place. There are free gigs every night, and this sound guy used to be in this psychedelic band who were pretty big at some point. He's just the meanest guy. He'll just come up to you and say something really mean, and because he's older, you're like, okay, sir. Okay, yes, I am awful. I'm scum of the earth. It's amazing how someone of that age can just cut you down.
Yep.
Hey, Ned, thank you so much for being up for this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So there was Ned Russin. The new Glitterer record comes out on the 23rd of February. I loved that chat. To be honest, at the start, because I've heard him before, I've read him before, I'm like, does he think I'm an idiot for asking the questions about what breakfast cereal do you do? When do you feel like writing a song? I think some people, I presume, I know people like these. I like people like this who are like, shut the fuck up, stop asking me questions. I think it's cool that Ned got into that. Thank you, Ned. Thank you for listening. I'm buzzing about this Glycera record. It sounds totally up my street. I've always been... I remember hearing the Shins and Jeff Buckley Grace when I recently just discovered Kid Dynamite, 17, and I thought, damn, this is my music taste. And I feel like Glitterer, there's something in that. Hey, please subscribe if you like listening to that episode. I've got episodes all the time, twice a week. I've told myself, I promised myself, I give myself a slap if I don't put out 2 episodes a week. Please just subscribe, come join, come hang out. This is my party. My parents are out. Come round. Someone smokes ciggies in the back room and stamp out on the carpet. I don't mind. Be my friend. Come subscribe to 101 Part-Time Jobs, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers. 101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs, part-time jobs, part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs, 100 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.